Hello, everyone. I want to talk to you for just a few minutes about a comment that I saw underneath a video that I had watched. It was a liberal who was putting a comment out there about being fooled by Donald Trump. They were claiming that he must love me because I keep being fooled by him. And I was thinking about the question, is it possible that anybody today is fooled by Donald Trump? Are they fooled by his agenda? Are they fooled because they don't know about his past, that they don't know about January 6th, which has been out there ad nauseum? Is it possible they're not aware of the felony convictions in New York that has also been out there ad nauseum? Is it possible that we really are being fooled by anything? Now, in 2016, we really didn't know a whole lot about what Donald Trump was going to be like as president. And I think that it is possible that you could make a case that perhaps somebody could have been fooled into voting for him in 2016 or against him, maybe voting against him because of lack of trust. But in 2020 and 2024, we had a pretty good idea of exactly who Donald Trump was. Now, I am a lifelong Republican. I'm not somebody who just got into politics in 2016 because I saw Donald Trump coming down that escalator and got all excited. Before that event ever took place, I never paid a lot of attention to Donald Trump. I didn't watch The Apprentice. I didn't read his book, Art of the Deal. I never really paid much attention to him. The only time I ever heard anything about Donald Trump was just when he would show up in some kind of a news story. Maybe it was something to do with the tabloids or something like that. But I really didn't pay much attention to him. And I probably had a more negative view of him than a positive view going into 2016. When he was running for president in 2016, I wasn't the least bit excited about his candidacy. At first, I thought it was just a publicity stunt, like a lot of people did. And then when it became obvious that he was serious and he started winning primaries, I started getting concerned because, first of all, I didn't think he could win. And in the second place, I wasn't convinced he was a conservative because he had a track record of giving money to Democratic candidates and being friends with Democrats. As a Republican, I have never given as much as a nickel to a Democratic candidate for anything and wouldn't. And when he came out with an explanation that it was about business, in order to do business in certain places, you had to give money to different people, even on, both parties. And while that is true, there's no question about that. A lot of business people will do that. I wouldn't do that. I'd never give any money to a Democrat simply because I don't believe in what they're doing. I don't agree with their agenda. So in 2016, I wasn't a Trump supporter at all. I was actually a Ted Cruz supporter. I generally vote in the primaries for a traditional conservative Republican. Whoever I see as the most conservative candidate that's running in the Republican primary, that's who I generally vote for in the election. Somebody I think can win. It's kind of a combination of both. It's the most conservative candidate that I think's got a chance to win. And for instance, in 2008, I did not support John McCain in the primary. As a matter of fact, I did not like John McCain at all. I never even warmed up to him when I was forced to vote for him in the general election. I had voted for Fred Thompson for president in 2008. And then in 2012, I did not support Mitt Romney. I had voted for Rick Santorum. I never liked Mitt Romney. Both those two situations were where I ended up, what they say, holding your nose to vote for the candidate because you see him as the lesser of two evils. That's what it was in 2008 and 2012. So then we get again to 2016. I had no idea what Donald Trump would be like. I had no idea whatsoever, and I wasn't going to take a chance. And so I ended up supporting Ted Cruz, somebody I still got a lot of respect for. And if I lived in Texas, I would proudly support him every time he runs for the Senate. But I didn't know what we were going to get with Trump then. You could have said you were fooled in 2016. But what's interesting about that is Trump's support has increased since 2016. Even in the 2020 election, where Biden came out with more votes than Trump did, Trump had a lot more votes in 2020 than he had in 2016. His support actually had gone up, and his support went up again in 2024 from where it was in 2020. So to say that people are getting fooled by him is kind of crazy to me. I don't think anybody's being fooled by him. And if I knew then what I know now, even in 2016, I would have supported Donald Trump in the primary. Now, somebody might say, well, why would you support Donald Trump? And they start pointing out all of these flaws he's got, character flaws, because he's effective. Donald Trump is getting things done that nobody else has ever gotten done. And like what he's done with the Supreme Court and overturning Roe v. Wade. Nobody has ever been able to do that. And I don't think that the other candidates really had their heart in it. It was kind of like a show. They would claim they were pro-life, but they would kind of, when you came down to the appointments on the Supreme Court, they would give you these, throw you a conservative here and there, but then they'd throw you this one that's kind of a wishy-washy candidate. You didn't know what you were going to get on the Republican side. And so it would always come up. You'd be disappointed with the way that things went. You'd get stuck with a Kennedy or a Souter. And you could never count on him being consistently conservative. But with Donald Trump's Supreme Court picks, they're all originalist judges. They're all good. And he finally did what nobody else had been able to do. He delivered on overturning Roe v. Wade. So I give him a lot of credit for that he didn't play that game that a lot of them were doing. He came through. And when I look at Donald Trump's agenda and the things that he's doing overall, it's a lot of things conservatives claimed they were for all along. And now that they're finally getting it, they're upset about it. Now, there are exceptions. There are things like tariffs that a lot of people don't like, but I've always been a supporter of tariffs. I've always looked at it like we needed equal trade. It's not that I really like tariffs. It's that I don't like the fact that America always gets the bad end of every trade deal. They'll claim that they're, a good deal for this country, but they never are. Whether it was NAFTA or any of these deals that we've come out with in the past, they've never really been equal. And I've always been of the opinion that all tariffs should be based on what the other country is doing. It should be equal trade. So if another country has no tariffs, no trade barriers, then we shouldn't have any tariffs on their goods and no trade barriers. I really prefer that. But if another country has tariffs on our goods, then we should have the exact same kind of tariffs on their goods. If they're limiting a certain amount of American imports into their country, then we should be limiting the amount of their imports into our country. That's the way it should be. I fully understand that tariffs affect prices at the store, but this is about protecting American workers. And a lot of these other countries, they have very cheap labor. In America, we have this very high minimum wage, but in a lot of other countries, they don't. So Americans cannot compete in a lot of areas, and we end up losing jobs to other countries. And there's a lot of people that are just fine and dandy with that. They just want to have nothing but high-tech jobs in America, and they're perfectly content to lose textile jobs and things like that. I'm not. And I've been a person who has been fine with tariffs and always supported them all the way back to the early 1990s when I supported Pat Buchanan for president. And it wasn't a protest vote. I really was supporting Pat Buchanan over George H.W. Bush. But then again, when the election took place and it was him versus Clinton, of course I voted for George H.W. Bush. Again, I always support the person who wins the primary. And a lot of the reason I've been upset with a lot of Republicans like a Liz Cheney or a Mitt Romney is because it's always been traditional that even if we disagree in the primary, we always come together and support the winner whoever it is of our primary, we support them for president. I have held my nose and voted for a bunch of candidates that I did not like at all. John McCain and Mitt Romney were the two worst. I wasn't a huge supporter of Bob Dole either. Again, back then I voted for Pat Buchanan in the primary. But I did vote for all three of them. And the worst of the three, I would say, in my opinion right now, is Mitt Romney. I absolutely do not like Mitt Romney anymore. And with John McCain, a lot of times I really wrestled with whether I was even going to be able to even hold my nose and vote for him, or if I was going to vote third party, vote for the Constitution Party or something like that. But I did end up supporting him. I have consistently done that, and I expect the same thing from other Republicans. I don't expect them to go around voting for the Democrat. If a Republican can turn around and vote for a Hillary Clinton or a Joe Biden or a Kamala Harris, I have no use for those people. I don't consider them true Republicans. I consider them rhinos, because even if you don't like Donald Trump, there is no excuse for voting for somebody who supposedly stands for everything you're against. And if you can do that, then I have to wonder how conservative you really are and how committed you really are to conservative values. So the question is Donald Trump fooling me? Absolutely not. I knew all about him in 2016 after he won. I didn't know about him going into the election, but it wasn't long before I realized he's the real deal. How? Based on what he did after he got elected president. In 2020, I had 4 years to watch what he was doing, and I knew I was all in on Donald Trump because he had been coming through on campaign promises. In 2024, I knew exactly what I was getting when I voted for Donald Trump. I know all about the stories about things he supposedly did. Most of it, he has never been convicted of anything, and nothing's ever been proven. It's just a bunch of things that people are claiming about him. And I know that Democrats lie. I know you can't believe anything that a Democrat says in a campaign. The only time they're not lying is when they're not talking. So I absolutely don't believe the stuff that they're saying like that. But nevertheless, I've heard their claims. I've heard all the things they've said. But what I'm concerned with when I vote isn't that kind of stuff anyway. What I'm concerned about when I vote is the agenda. What kind of agenda do these people have? What do I approve of what Donald Trump's doing as president of the United States? Overall, yes. It doesn't mean that I'm always 100% in on every single thing he does, but overall, I approve of what he's doing. I would say that it's possible, I might even be able to say I approve of what Donald Trump's doing, even over Ronald Reagan. And I was a huge fan of Ronald Reagan. But there were things that he did, especially in his second term, I wasn't completely on board with. But Donald Trump, I'm pretty much on board with just about everything he's doing. So what I'm saying to these liberals who are going around saying Donald Trump is fooling us, Donald Trump fooled people into voting for him, but they're going to have voter regret. How in the world could anybody not know what Donald Trump's about as long as he's been on the political scene? We had a whole 4 years to watch him from 2016 to 2020. We had, or actually 2017 to January of 2021. And then we saw what all went on in the 4 years in between Trump's first and second term. And I don't see how in the world anybody thinks that we're getting fooled by Donald Trump. We're not being fooled by him. And we don't have all these people out there with voter regret either. Most of these things that you're seeing out there with these people claiming that they were MAGA supporters, even voted for Trump sometimes for 3 times, now they suddenly don't agree with him because of tariffs. Where were you? Were you not paying any attention to the campaign? He kept talking about tariffs the whole time. I'm not buying it. It's Democratic activists and it's actors being paid to claim they used to be MAGA and now they're against Donald Trump. Those of us who voted for Donald Trump, I would say the vast majority supported him knowing, had their eyes wide open and knew exactly what they were getting. and they still supported him, and they still support him today.